Hello and welcome to TFC. I'm Naveen. All of us have had at least some of these fizzy soft drinks. This is me during my childhood and I used to love these fizzy drinks. Well, guess I still do. But I surely didn't know the stories, the politics, the egos and the cutthroat competition behind these seemingly simple drinks where the players keep changing and only few survive. Let's travel across time and explore this fascinating journey of the Cola Wars of India. We will begin our journey from a simpler time. 1837 in Mumbai, a chemist named Henry Rogers sets up probably India's first aerated water factory. The manufactured soda was called Rogers. Soon, a number of Parsi businesses started venturing into the new soda business. In 1865 came Palonji soda. In 1884 came Ardashirs, and by 1889 Dinshawji launched Duke soda. Their raspberry sodas became very popular in Mumbai and Pune. Meanwhile, far away in the US, early in the 1890s, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, initially called as Brad's drink, started their journey. While in the rest of India, locally made sodas like Banta and Goli soda served in a cord neck bottle also became very popular. And in southern India, regional players like Kalimark emerged. Time moved at its own pace and then came 1947. India finally gained its independence. That's when the battle to capture India's soft drink market truly started. Coca-Cola and Pepsi were now eyeing India. Will they succeed or will there be a local challenger? We are right now outside the Parle Gluco building in Mumbai, the makers of the popular biscuit. In 1949, Parle decided to venture into the cola market and released independent India's first cola drink, Gluco Cola. But Coke had already registered their trademark in India and objected to the use of cola word in their product. So Parle had to change the name to Parle Cola. But still, Coca-Cola was not satisfied and finally, after nearly 2 years of tussle, Parle discontinued their cola. Meanwhile, Coca-Cola had began its production in India with a bottling plant in New Delhi, while Pepsi also entered India around that time. The two American colas were now all set to easily capture the Indian market. But Parle had still not given up. In 1952, Parle launched an orange-flavored drink called Gold Spot. Gold Spot became an instant success, especially among children. Coca-Cola also started gaining strength in India, but Pepsi was lagging behind. The national battle between Coca-Cola and Parle was getting fierce. By 1962, Pepsi was lagging far behind, and finally, due to poor sales, it took a decision of leaving India. Later, in 1971, Parle launched Limca, which became popular especially among the females. Moreover, to increase the market share of Gold Spot, Parle introduced a popular ad campaign along with a new promising actress, Rekha. Still, Parle avoided direct competition with Coke and did not launch a similar cola drink. But the near future was going to turn around the whole story. We have reached 1973. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India and she once described the year 1973 as a very difficult year as India's economy was badly affected post the 1971 war, monsoon failures and a global oil shock which has created major problems. Now, with a declining economy, Indira Gandhi had to protect the foreign outflows. Therefore, the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act of 1973 was passed. Maximum holding by a multinational company was reduced to 40%. During that time, Coca-Cola had emerged as the market leader, while Parle was comfortably placed at the number 2 spot. This new law would mean Coca-Cola India has to reduce its stake in the Indian venture in next 2 years. As the negotiations began between the government and Coca-Cola, something very unexpected happened in 1975.
राष्ट्रपति जी ने आपातकाल की घोषणा
The president has proclaimed emergency. There is nothing to panic about. On 26th June, these words of Indira Gandhi thundered from the All India radio. A state of emergency was declared across the country. Soon, the Indian economy and the political climate changed drastically. Meanwhile, in 1976, Parle was working hard to gain its footprint in the soft drink market and therefore launched a fruit drink called Maaza. At that time, the future seemed uncertain. But next year was going to become probably the most eventful year of India's cola industry. In early 1977, after the revocation of emergency, elections were held in which Congress lost. A new government was formed by Janata Party and Morarji Desai became the first non-Congress Prime Minister of India. The new Janata Party government was focused on nationalization and MNCs like Coca-Cola were under its radar. That time, Coca-Cola was the biggest cola player. In the new government, George Fernandes became the Minister of Industries. He was one of the most vocal opponents of Coca-Cola and wanted Coke to leave India. So he laid two demands in front of Coca-Cola: to dilute its stake in its Indian subsidiary to just 40% and also reveal the secret formula of making Coke. As according to the Indian Patents Act 1970, the mere formulation of Coke was not considered as an invention. If Coke cannot agree to these demands, they would have to quit India. George Fernandes knew Coke will never share their secret formulation, and this is what happened. Shortly, the company shut down their factories and started leaving. 22 Indian bottling plants and around 10,000 workers became jobless. Some workers even protested outside the house of George Fernandes to bring Coca-Cola back. George Fernandes later said, "I made the point that 90% of India's villages did not have safe drinking water, whereas Coke had reached every village. Do we really need Coke? Do we really need Pepsi?" Now, the newly formed government has to do something about the job creation of these workers. Soon, the reports started coming in of Coke bottles being smuggled from Pakistan and sold at thrice the price in India. To fill this void of Coke, the government took a bold decision. They decided to manufacture its own cola drink, which would taste similar to Coca-Cola and also has less caffeine. They called the new drink 77 or 77, which signified the end of emergency, defeat of Indira Gandhi and ouster of Coca-Cola. The tagline of the drink was "For the good times." Soon, 77 was launched by the Prime Minister with much fanfare, but the response from the public was lukewarm as it tasted nothing like Coca-Cola. The government then contacted the biggest Coke bottler, Pure Drinks, to become the bottler for 77. But Pure Drinks had other plans. It also wanted a stake in the market left by Coke. Pure Drinks created their own cola drink and called it Campa Cola. The drink even had a very similar sounding branding and taste like Coca-Cola. Campa Cola got a better reception than 77. As these two cola drinks were trying to win the market, Parle too had shifted its goal to conquer the Coca-Cola market share. But unlike others, Parle wanted to create an original drink by using Indian ingredients. Parle's team started working on it and eventually they created a new cola drink which was going to change the Indian market for a very long time. Happy days are here again. This was the first ad campaign of Parle's new cola drink called Thumbs Up. Initially, the drink was called Thumbs Up, but the alphabet B was removed to make the brand name unique. Post its release, the different taste of Thumbs Up went down well with its customers and the brand became an instant success. Then the competition between Thumbs Up and Campa Cola started. Campa Cola played the first move move and reduced the price on its 200 ml bottles. Now, Parle had to counter it, and they applied an interesting strategy. Instead of reducing the price, Parle increased the bottle size to 250 ml with the same price and called it Maha Cola. Maha Cola made Thums Up even more popular, and with the help of aggressive marketing, Thums Up inched closer to become a market leader. But it wasn't going to be a cakewalk for Thums Up. Other players too wanted the slice of the pie. Brands like Torino and Orange Drink and Dixie Cola emerged. Vijay Mallya too launched his own cola brand called Thrill Cola, while regional brands like Povoto, Socio were also gaining market share. Therefore, to get further hold of the market, in the 1980s, Parle started the Zing Thing ad campaign for Gold Spot, which targeted the youth, and the Lime and Lemony ad campaign for Limca with another budding actor, Salman Khan. Parle also released a newer drink, Citra, and positioned it as a super cooler. For Thums Up, Parle began one of the longest Indian advertising campaigns named Tasty Thunder. During this time, Pepsi was still eyeing for the Indian market, and in 1985, Pepsi proposed to the government a joint venture with the RP Goenka Group, but Pepsi's proposal was rejected by the government. By 1987, Parle was the undisputed king of the soft drink market, and Thums Up the highest selling cola in the country with around 60 to 70% market share. But all this was soon going to change drastically. The year is 1988. We are right now outside the Indian Parliament, and after over 20 debates, 15 review committees, an important decision is about to take place which will change the face of the Indian soft drink industry. Pepsi is finally given permission to re-enter the Indian markets. PepsiCo and its Indian joint venture partners are jubilant. But how did that happen? Why suddenly Pepsi is being allowed to enter India? To understand this, we have to move to 1984, the year Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was assassinated.
आज सवेरे नई दिल्ली में प्रधानमंत्री के निवास स्थान पर श्रीमती गांधी की हत्या करने की कोशिश की गई।
Later, her son Rajiv Gandhi formed the government with a resounding mandate. At that time, the violence in the state of Punjab had endangered the state and also left its youth jobless. In 1985, Rajiv Gandhi decided to begin the process of decreasing government control in the private sector. Pepsi, still eyeing for the Indian market, did not want to miss this opportunity and proposed setting up a joint venture with the government-run Punjab Agro and Voltas, a subsidiary of Tata, with PepsiCo holding around 39% stake. It committed itself to an initial investment of $14 million and proposed setting up an agro research center, open bottling and food processing plants in Punjab. In return, they wanted to sell Pepsi in the Indian market, as the re-entry of Pepsi would address the unemployment problem in the state of Punjab after years of negotiations and debates. Finally, in 1988, India said yes to Pepsi. But the Indian cola makers were not happy with this decision. While George Fernandes wrote a strongly worded letter to Pepsi, he wrote, "I learned that you are coming here. I am the one that threw Coca-Cola out, and we are soon going to come back into the government. If you are coming into the country, you have to remember that the same fate awaits you as Coca-Cola." During the late 1980s, 3 billion bottles of branded soft drinks were sold annually in India. Pepsi knew it cannot leave such a huge market due to threats from the opposition, but they didn't know one thing. In just a year, the opposition was going to form the next government. Congress failed to form the government, and VP Singh became the Prime Minister of India with a minority government. VP Singh's first visit as a Prime Minister was to Amritsar's Golden Temple to announce that he hoped to bring back a healing touch to Punjab's then torn state. There, in Punjab itself, Pepsi had already started working on its bottling and food processing plant. They were keenly observing the new government policy and also which portfolio will be given to George Fernandes, the one who drove away Coca-Cola. At that time, the local bottler Waters and cola companies too had started a campaign to stop PepsiCo's entry in India. Meanwhile, United States was concluding an investigation of India's trade practices under its Super 301 provisions of the 1988 Trade Act, which could result in sanctions for India. Eventually, India's Prime Minister will have to decide the fate of PepsiCo in India. VP Singh knew that his decision about PepsiCo could not only impact US-India relations but also India's global business reputation. Finally, VP Singh decided that it would be a bad precedent to stop a contract that took so long to negotiate. PepsiCo was given the final go-ahead. Seeing Pepsi's entry, Coca-Cola also submitted its own proposal to enter the Indian market but was rejected by the government, while the American Double Cola was given permission to enter India with a restriction that they will not be able to withdraw any profits from India for a certain period of time. Soon, PepsiCo began production of snack foods and was all set to launch Pepsi, Mirinda and 7up in the summer of 1990. Their flagship drink was named Pepsi Era. Just before the release of Pepsi, the opponents started challenging the name Pepsi Era, as at that time it was against the law to use foreign names for Indian products. Now Pepsi has to change the name, but they have already printed the name Pepsi Era on its bottles. Permanently labeled bottles were scrapped and new ones were made at a cost of over $1 million. Now the drink was called as Leher Pepsi. And this is how, after 28 years, Pepsi went on sale in India in the year 1990. To hold the fort, Parle continued an aggressive marketing strategy, and to promote Limca, it launched Limca Book of Records, which documented world records held by Indians. Meanwhile, Coca-Cola was grimly observing the entry of Pepsi. They knew they have to do something to re-enter India. At the start of 1991, India was facing its worst foreign exchange crisis. India was close to defaulting its financial obligations. To get an emergency loan, over 100 tons of Indian gold was airlifted and mortgaged in foreign banks. By mid-1991, Congress again came back in power and P.V. Narasimha Rao became the 9th Prime Minister of India. P.V. Narasimha Rao selected the former Governor of Reserve Bank of India, Manmohan Singh, as his finance minister. To resolve the grave crisis in hand, they both decided to do something which was never done before in the 44 years history of independent India. In Parliament, the finance minister said, "No power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come." And this budget speech began the process of liberalization of the Indian economy. Restriction of 40% holding by a foreign company was raised to 51%. This is the moment Coca-Cola was waiting for. It immediately declared its intention to return back to India, and within months, Coca-Cola plans were approved. Meanwhile, Pepsi started using its financial muscle to run extensive campaigns by using Bollywood and sports personalities. The competition between Thums Up and Pepsi started heating up. Pepsi began downplaying Thums Up as tasting like medicine, while Thums Up also started hitting back at Pepsi by implying it as a product for kids. Both these companies knew the competition was going to heat up further, as Coca-Cola is soon going to join the Indian market. Billboards with tagline like "Happy to be here" were splashed all over, and after 16 years, Coca-Cola has re-entered India. The company made a goal to again make Coca-Cola the biggest selling soft drink company in India, but they also realized that building multiple new bottling plants will be a lengthy process. At that time, Parle was the undisputed market leader and had 62 bottlers across India. But there was one problem in Parle's business model. They owned only 4 bottlers and the rest 58 were franchises. Coke saw this as an opportunity and started approaching the franchises to join Coke instead of Parle, and soon the majority of them agreed to switch to Coca-Cola. Parle soon faced the crunch. It cannot maintain its soft drink business if the majority of bottlers switched to Coke. In September, Parle took a difficult decision. It agreed to sell its soft drink business for an estimated value of $60 million. And overnight, Coca-Cola became the biggest soft drink company in India. Now, Coca-Cola made a new goal. They want to replace Thums Up and instead make Coca-Cola as the most selling soft drink in India, a plan which might not be achieved that easily. After taking over Parle, Coca-Cola decided to end all Parle brands and promote only Coca-Cola products. First to go was Gold Spot to make space for Fanta. Few months later, Limca was replaced by Sprite, but Coke had eyes on Thums Up as it would be replaced by their main brand Coca-Cola. They thought it will be easy for Coke to replace Thums Up. So soon, Coke started reducing the budget and production of Thums Up and aggressively started promoting Coca-Cola through ads, retailer incentives, and even by distributing free samples. During that time, Pepsi was quickly gaining market share, and they also acquired one of the oldest soda brand, Dukes. As the battle to reach the top was gaining traction, 1996 Cricket World Cup arrived. Coca-Cola spent a huge money and defeated Pepsi to become the official sponsor and official drink of the Cricket World Cup. To counter it, during the World Cup, Pepsi launched a hugely successful advertising campaign with a tagline,
"Nothing official about it,"
indirectly striking at Coca-Cola that official sponsorship does not matter. This campaign captured the imagination of the public, while Coke, even after being the official sponsor, lost out. In the absence of Thums Up, most of its fans started switching to Pepsi. Seeing the market share of Thums Up slipping daily to Pepsi, Coca-Cola finally realized the importance of Thums Up. They brought back Thums Up, and unlike the rest of the world, in India, they made Thums Up as their key brand against Pepsi. Soon, in the early 2000s, Limca, another Parle brand, was recalled back into production. For the next decade, Thums Up remained the largest selling fizzy drink in the country, which was overtaken by Coca-Cola's Sprite in 2013. Still, even after losing the top spot, Thums Up, the brand made locally in India by using Indian ingredients, continues to sell more than Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Now, Coca-Cola is still India's biggest soft drink maker with around 50% market share. But now, hundreds of local brands have also emerged and together are giving a tough competition by accounting for around 24% of the Indian market. Who knows which turn the future might take? All I can say, this was the fascinating journey of the Cola Wars of India.